Hello guys, how are you? I'm trying to see if you can actually see my wine, but I'm going to hopefully suggest that yes, I am drinking. And happy Wine Wednesday. I decided to do this from my private page because for some reason I haven't been able to broadcast from my page. Hi Rande, thanks for joining. So I'm going to just share a couple of places and then hopefully we'll get started in a little bit. Rande, it's very late for you. I don't know if you're going to be staying on, or if you are, more power to you. I know it's getting very light in Norway. There's going to be like 24/7 light now soon, so that's a really good thing. So let's share one more place and then we're going to get started. So where I'm sharing is my my page, Sunny Gandera. If you don't follow me there, it's just facebook.com/Sunny Gandera, and also in my group Plant Empowered Bon Vivants. So I see that I can see my wine a little bit, but I'm going to be talking about orange wines, and this is a real fun topic for me because I don't think I've ever actually talked about orange wine, although I definitely have been posting a lot about orange wines on my Instagram, and I've probably talked about it but not really dealt with the topic of orange wine. And I think it's just such a fun wine, and probably actually a couple of even sommeliers that I, if you can call them that, that I run across in restaurants don't even know what it is. So I figured, you know what, let's talk about it. I'm all about natural wine. I have a background in wine, so I have about 15 years in the wine industry, and I've always been really interested in wine ever since I was 20 years old or 19 when I moved to Rome, Italy, and I started studying about wine. And now, of course, that is my job. So, hey Stuart, how are you? Nice to see you. And so what is orange wine? I actually have a really fun wine today. I'm going to show you this first. It's got a really fun, I don't know, I think it's a wolf or something, some sort of canine teeth there. It's called Vivo Curtido 2018. It's Portuguese wine, and that's I like to always champion the sort of smaller guys, smaller regions, not typically, you know, very well known, and I think it's so fun that they're making natural wines there. So what are orange wines, right? So this term, actually, if you can see, it's actually very cloudy. It's sort of orange. I would say it's almost like a peachy color. There's certainly, you know, the color of orange wines vary from really, really orange to sort of almost where you can see a little tint. So it's just a term really that describes a set of natural wines, and I'm going to tell you what natural wines mean, that are made with white grape varieties, I should say, that are fermented with their skins like red wines. So basically the result is a wine that has an orange color. Typically white wines aren't really fermented on their skin. I always say people don't think that the juice of grapes in both red and white, generally speaking, are clear. So the reason why red wines have a red color is because it's fermenting with the red skins on the outside. So this one is, these orange wines, they actually have tannins, meaning those things that kind of dry out your mouth, you know, that makes it sort of like sandpaper in your mouth. Typically in white wines you don't have it because they're not fermented on the skin. So they have very much a body like red wine. So if you're not a white wine drinker, try orange wine because it can actually have the same sensation. Helena says, where can I get one? I think, Helena, you can get, I don't know where in the world you are. I know you've been on this like whirlwind tour and traveling the world, so let me know where you are. But honestly, you can probably get one in a nice wine shop that, you know, they specialize in fine wines. There's probably always, or like maybe sort of cutting edge wine stores. They typically have it, like here in New York. There's a lot of them in Brooklyn, of course in the city too, but mostly in Brooklyn there you have orange wines galore. There's also obviously the internet, so I can give you some some sites, Helena, that you can actually purchase them online. So at the end of this live, I'm going to put down the name of this wine, and then I always recommend going to wine-searcher.com. That way you can put in that name of the wine and you can put in your location, and it'll bring up a variety of stores that may be within, you know, a few miles of your home. So that's also something that you can do. So this is, you know, orange wines, they actually are dry, so don't expect, bring them on camera. Oh, okay, so here, this is, you see this guy, it's called Vivo Curtido, and it's from the Moscatel Galego grape. So this is a version of the Moscatel. I'm actually going to talk about Moscatel, the Muscat grape as well. So here we go. And so you see the background here. So this I got at my local wine shop. I'm so lucky that I have a fabulous wine store in my town of Beacon, New York. Shout out to Artisan Wine Shop. Tim, May, Sam, everybody there is fantastic. And they always recommend some amazing wines for me who are kind of geeky. Someone's coming, so of course now I'm going to compete with the dogs because my landlord's truck is just pulling up, but in any event, cheers. So orange winemaking originated in northeast Italy and Slovenia, and this is where you can find some amazing examples of Pinot Grigio, Malvasia, and a grape that's called Ribolla Gialla. And I would also recommend the Ribolla Gialla, not just in the orange, you know, category, but they have beautiful white wines as well. They age very well. We can do another, definitely another wine Wednesday on the Ribolla Gialla and all the northern Italian amazing white wines and reds, of course. Now you can find orange wines everywhere, from Spain to, hi Christy, thanks for joining. You can find it in Spain, you can find it in Switzerland, in Sicily, and of course here in the United States, all over where wine is made. Really now you see more and more orange winemaking. And they're really ancient wines. In fact, when white wine production began, it probably most likely was with red grapes. So this is kind of bringing it all back. Hi Hilda, thanks for joining. So I would recommend, if you're drinking orange wines, and Hilda, and anybody who's watching from Norway, I'm sure you can find orange wines in Norway. There is amazing knowledge from people there in Norway. I've actually always so amazed at how much people know about wines in Norway, because it's not a winemaking country, but people really love wine. And the monopoly, people working there are usually very well educated about wine. So check your monopoly, Vinmonopolet, for orange wines. I would recommend drinking orange wines out of large wine glasses because they need a lot of air to open up and reveal their full personalities, as I say. And you want to treat them more like red wine rather than white. So this can be a bit sort of confusing. You don't want to drink them too cold, because if you drink them too cold, you're not going to taste all the textures, the flavors, kind of like red. You know, you don't put red wine in the fridge. Maybe a little bit if you have lighter bodied reds like Schiava and Pinot Noir and things like Cabernet Franc. Some of them can actually do well with a slight chill, but not too cold, because then you lose all of those enormous, beautiful textures and compositions of the wine, right? So orange wines for me, I find them extremely fun. They're super food friendly. I love drinking them with spicy stews, kimchi, you know, the Korean fermented vegetable stew, and fermented soybeans like natto. And because of the boldness of the orange wine, you can pair them with a lot of bold flavored foods, you know, hence the spicy foods or other foods that you find that are difficult to pair with wine. Try orange wine. Much like I say, always go with sparkling wine or sherry with foods that are difficult to pair. Try orange wine. There's a huge variety of orange wine styles, from light to full-bodied, and I'd be happy to give my recommendations, because the world of orange wine is really exploding as we speak. And if, you know, contact me personally to find a style that you like, because sometimes, you know, it's like, it helps me if you tell me I like XYZ, and then I can actually recommend wines accordingly. So today, as I said, I have this really exciting wine from Portugal. Many people are maybe familiar with Spanish wines. Of course, you have the Riojas and But I recommend looking to Portugal for exciting wines. Of course, Portugal is known for port wine, you know, the fortified, sweet, really heavy wine. But they have amazing, great table wine, not just red dry wines, which you should look into because they're from all the, typically from the port varieties, you know, Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, so forth. But they also have really great white wines, and you wouldn't think that because it's really hot for, say, in the Douro Valley, but there are some very, very good wines all around, including, of course, today. And this is from Moscatel, and this is actually a specific, you know, sort of branch of Moscatel called Moscatel Galego, Branco, which is basically Portuguese for white, Blanco, right, as in Spanish. And the Moscatel grapevine is the oldest probably known grapevine to humankind that has survived to today. It's assumed that it came from the Orient with the Phoenicians, the Greeks, and even the Romans, and then brought to all of Europe, Portugal, Spain, France, Germany, and so forth. And this is really a still very important grape variety today. And you probably maybe have tried sweet muscat, you know, or Moscato. It's very popular today, of course, with a slight fizz in it. You can also, you know, I would say flavor profiles of muscat is like orange blossom, Mayer lemon, mandarin orange, honeysuckle, lychee, rose petals. It's very floral. This one is very floral. When I smell it now, I'm smelling kind of rose petals, ripe pears, apples, tropical fruits sometimes, and it's pretty low in acidity generally, but very aromatic and packed with flavor. And you can find muscat grown all over the world, from France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, of course, Austria, Greece, Australia, United States, and South Africa. Everywhere pretty much they're growing wine. You can find probably muscat grown in some variety. Moscatel Galego specifically, which this is, it's a very fruity and floral variety that is grown in the Douro region of Portugal. So of course the Douro Valley is where it's the heart of port wine country. It's full-bodied, and it's a popular variety of the Moscatel family. It's got a rich texture, a sweet flavor, but again, it is dry, so don't expect a sweet wine. It's got actually really surprising, refreshing acidity. I said typically it has low acidity, but with orange wines there is this refreshing quality to it, along with that drying out of the mouth a little bit, which you really want when you're pairing it with food, because otherwise it becomes too cloying. And this guy that makes this wine, I should also mention that Moscatel sometimes is high. This of course always happens in the 1 minute I have the live, I get a phone call. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the guy who makes this wine, and I was saying that Moscatel typically has high alcohol, and this actually has low alcohol. This is 11%. So this is really nice for the summertime. You know, you don't want to drink heavy, super alcoholic wine this time of year. Really refreshing. The guy that makes this is called Tiago Sampaio, and he's very innovative. He's young, and the winery is Folias de Baco. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's a project that he started back in 2007 as a result of really being around his grandfather and watching him, you know, through his farms and vineyards. And he was always very curious and willing to experiment. And he did his PhD studies in Oregon for viticulture and enology, and he picked up all these modern philosophies there in Oregon and aesthetics of winemaking. And he never forgot his roots in the Douro Valley. So he returned to this estate that has garnered a lot of attention since. Can you buy that in the US? Yes, absolutely, Christy. I'm sure you can buy it. This is from Savio Suarez Selection, which is one of my favorite importers. Not sure, where are you, Christy? What state are you? Can you remind me? But again, doing the wine-searcher.com or just getting it online from a retailer or a store that, you know, wine club even, that you can buy from, I'm sure you can get your hands on it. It's really lovely. I really recommend it. So specifically, this wine is located in the Alto Douro, which is the sub-region of the Douro Valley called Cima Corgo. It's a really rough. You are in Chicago, I'm sure. I mean, Christy, Chicago has such a great wine scene. It's so vibrant. I would be very surprised if you couldn't find it in Chicago. Big natural wine scene there as well. So yeah, check it out. I'm gonna put the name after I get off, so you can check it out. So you know, like I said, this estate has gotten a lot of attention. It's in this rough, challenging region or area. The vines are located at high altitude, between 500 and 700 meters, and that also gives it probably why it has this acidity, this refreshing acidity. And really, he is bridging the tradition of his homeland with these learned modern aesthetics from the modern world, or from the new world, as I call it, in Oregon. And he creates these field blends of both red, white, and mixed from indigenous varietals that are planted over 80 years ago. He makes pet nats, Pinot Noirs, other reds, and so forth. You're welcome, Christy. Yes, I would love to hear what you think of it if you want to try it out. So yeah, so I'm really excited about this Moscatel Galego. Again, it's such a perfect day today. In New York, we have like 75 degrees. It's finally like spring, almost like you can almost imagine summer around the corner. So that's why I'm like really excited and happy, because it's been so rainy and gray here, and I get to sit outside. So I'm going to be doing my Wine Wednesdays from outside, hopefully, for the next few weeks. So this one is, let me just tell you a little bit more about this wine. So I think I paid around $19, $18, under $20 for sure. This is the 2018 vintage, and it's naturally farmed. So when I talk about natural wines, I'm a really big fan of natural wines, because in traditional farmed wines, and of course I'm generalizing, but conventionally farmed wines, and I'm talking about the huge brands that you find in every corner store, in every wine shop, you know, with millions of bottles produced, you can pretty much guarantee that they use some type of additives that you wouldn't eat in a food, but that they somehow add in wine, and nobody knows about it, because the labels behind, sort of on the back of the wine bottles, they don't list ingredients, right? It only says may contain sulfites or contains added sulfites. That's about it. And like I always say, sulfites is the least thing you need to worry about, because it's a naturally occurring byproduct of fermentation, whereas Roundup and food coloring and all these other things are not. So you know, you want to be able to rely on the fact that the only thing that's in the bottle that I'm drinking are grapes, right? And perhaps yeast, but in natural wines, normally the yeast is indigenous, meaning it's yeast that's already out on the vines and the grapes in the vineyard. So it's not man-made yeast, and so it just kind of generates, it starts to ferment on its own. So it's all natural. There's no intervention really by the winemaker. So the wine just really gets to do its own thing, and that the result is a wine that's not tasting the same from year to year. So if you're like tasting this and you expect the exact same quality next year, chances are probably not. It might have a little higher acidity, maybe more fruit, maybe it's like another funky flavor that happened, but that is just the nature of nature. You know, like when indigenous yeasts are allowed to sort of go rampant, there's anything can happen. So as a winemaker, you have to kind of have ice in the stomach, and you're just like, but at least you don't add crap that, you know, is why people complain about headaches and things like that, because it's really just very natural. And so natural winemaking is, of course, I don't know if you can see this. You probably can't, but if you see on the bottom, there's all kinds of things floating around in the bottle, and people are like, ew, what's that? But that's actually, to me, a sign that this is a real true product, and it's unfined and unfiltered, meaning it's vegan, at least in the bottle. You know, the other version of veganism is, of course, what's happening in the soil. There can be a lot of animal products and manure from chicken farms and such, you know, that are not vegan, but in the wine filtering and fining process, there is at least no animal products used, which is very common also. In many wine producers use egg whites, they can use fish bladders, they can use whey or some type of dairy products, which, you know, if you have allergies, even if you don't even care about vegan, but if you have allergies, you might, you know, want to kind of look into that. But with natural wines, it's untouched, it's unfined, so you can rest assured that there's none of that thing in your wine. So these vines are over 35 years old. So the older the vines, the more complex and concentrated the fruit. So it's always a really nice sign that the vines are older. And this is a really floral, like I said, aroma. I get sort of peach, white grapefruit, pink peppercorns a little bit, lemon, tropical fruit. Great minerality in this. Really refreshing, and just fun wines. You know, these are not wines to like keep and like, you know, you just want to kind of drink them and chug them, you know, drink with moderation, but they're just so fun for parties. With, you know, as far as food, like I told you, bold foods are great with this, like some slightly spicy Thai or Indian food perhaps, spicy stews. I would do lots of like a great nice vegan cheese board, that sort of creamy cashew cream cheese, really wonderful with this. And again, even with lighter salads or grain salads that you're serving this time of year with maybe a little citrusy dressing will match, because this has great acidity to it. So I really love this wine. I hope you will try it out. Again, it's Vivo Curtido 2018, and it is Savio Suarez is the importer. So he's actually really great, imports a lot of really wonderful wines into the United States. If you're in Europe, I'm sure you can get a hold of it too. Just ask your local retailer always. If you can't find it in your area, it always helps, because most retailers are willing to special order wines for you. So even if it's not available or on the store shelf, just ask, you know, and it doesn't have to be a case either. Sometimes you might have to buy, if you want to just buy 1 or 2 bottles, they might have to add another $2 onto it, because there's a break when they break cases. But if it's worth it for you just to be curious before you commit to maybe a larger quantity, I think it's worth it to pay a couple extra dollars. And it really helps to bring attention to the store owner as well, to wines that maybe he or she was not aware of before. So that's my little tip on requesting wines that I'm showcasing here. Of course, all the wines I'm showcasing are going to be available in New York, most likely in the United States, and then sometimes I'll showcase wines that are available on a broader scale too. But I do like my small winery makers. I like to support the underdogs, as I said, and the lesser known grape varieties, to just showcase you how exciting the world of wine is, how delicious it can be, and it can be healthy, because this is only grapes that have just fermented. So you know what, it can't be that bad. Yes, there's a little alcohol in it and you should drink with moderation, but I think you can really add a nice flavor element and experience to your meal, and it's great to share a glass with good friends. So with that, thank you guys so much for joining me. If you are watching this on replay and you enjoy it, and everybody who's been on live today, I would so appreciate it if you shared the video, comment with any questions. As I said, no questions are silly. I would love to help you out. Oh, thank you, Christy. That means a lot. I'm glad you felt that this was a useful live video. Oh, actually, very important, before I forget, next Wednesday I'm going to bring on a very special guest, my dear friend Tanisha, who I met in Burgundy on a wine tour, and we are going to talk about her new life in Paris. She moved from DC, uprooted herself, knew nobody in Paris, and now she's working there. She's doing wine tours, she's doing classes, she's traveling all over with groups, showing people the wonderful world of French wines. And she's a great entrepreneur. She has a company called Girl Meets Glass and a blog as well. So please join me next week. We are going to be talking, and I'm going to be posting the time. I believe it's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 7 p.m. in Europe. So please join me for that. Tanisha is wonderful and so fun, and maybe it can be an inspiration for you who just maybe said, what happened? What would happen if I just up and left and moved to a different country? And then she basically embraced her favorite hobby, which is wine, and then made it into a career. So she's so inspirational to me and a great friend. So I hope you will join me for that. Thank you again, Christy, for being here, and everybody else. And I will see you guys next week. Bye. Cheers.